So I'll start by giving you guys the model answers, and then you tell me if you got something wrong. We'll fix those, and we'll discuss if you have any issues بقى في any question separate. يعني I'll explain it for you even if you got it right. Remember the questions that you've struggled with, even if you got it right, please let me know إيه هم عشان نشرح. طيب. So 1 is B, 2C, 3C, 4D, 5C, 650, 740, 8C, 9A, 10D, 11B, 12A, و13 410, 1476, 15D, 16A, 17B, 18B, 19D, number 20 is -3, 21 is 1.8 or 9/5, whatever you've written, 22 is A, 23 is D, 24 is C, 25 C, 26 B, 27 10. So what were the issues? Okay. 27 and 21. I'm sorry. Number 2 as well? 20. So, okay, 27, 21, and 20, right? Okay. And Majid, what did you get wrong? Okay, 20. Okay. So 24, 28. Okay, 25. Okay, perfect. So let's start it from the beginning. I think the first thing you had an issue with was number 20. Everything before that was okay, ونothing of them حتى took so much time أو حاجة. There's nothing you want me to explain من اللي باقيين، صح؟ I don't mind إن نبتدي من الأول خالص لو أنتوا عايزين. نبتدي من الأول أحسن؟ طب يلا بينا. Okay. So أول حاجة خالص, this is a basic equation where we're going to move the 12 to the other side كده كده by subtraction. So K will be equals to 300 and then 36 minus 12, which is 24. So 324 is the answer. That's a pretty easy one. بعد كده we'll move to number 2. The function you're given f of x and you're asked to find f of 2. And we say إنه f of بطيخ, we remove the x and we substitute بطيخ. F of 2, we remove the x, we substitute the 2. So 2 to the power of 3 plus the 15, that's considered the 8 plus 15, which is 23 on a calculator. C would be the correct answer, برضو right away. Number 3, it says Sean rents a tent at a cost of $11 per day, $11 per day. So the 11 will be multiplied by the number of days, because anything is done per day is multiplied by the number of days. Per hour is multiplied by the number of hours, and so on. Now plus, so I'll just put plus, one-time insurance fee of 10, which means the 10 is paid once, only one time, which equation represents the total cost, C. So this should give me the total cost, C. When you look at the choices, it's clearly choice C. There's another برضو thing to remember here, إنه أي question whenever we're discussing the slope has keywords. It is the increase per day, the decrease each hour, every whatsoever month, for example, the word rate of change. All of those are keywords for the slope. While the y-intercept has other keywords, like, for example, initial value, or one-time fee, one time whatsoever, or once, or the start, or the beginning. So when they said here that this is paid 11 per day, I know right away that this represents the slope. And because this is a one-time fee of 10, then I know that right away the 10 is the y-intercept. So I can write it in the form of y equals mx plus d, just how it says. Number 4, those are parallel lines. According to the parallel lines, فيهم حاجات important to discuss. For example, إنه كل ال acute angles are equal to each other. وكل ال obtuse angles are equal to each other. What do I mean by this? يعني مثلا this one is acute. This one is also acute. كده كده ال opposite angles are equal. Because this is acute and this one is acute, they're all as well equals to each other, which means that this is 26, this is 26, this is 26, and so on. Now, all the obtuse angles, which are, for example, this one, that one, this one, that one, all of them are also equals to each other. Now, any obtuse plus any acute is equals to 180. Those are the rules of the parallel lines. So, for example, here, because they want me to find x, and clearly x is an obtuse angle, and I'm given 26, which is an acute angle, all what I'll need to do is 180 minus the 26, and that should get me the answer of 154 degrees, which is D, sorry. So you can base it off the idea إنه أي acute plus أي obtuse ب 180, or you can work it out عادي by looking at the shape itself. في ناس حافظة إنه مثلا for example the letter U, this letter U that is formed using the parallel lines, the interior angles are added to each other and it would give you 180, which is the same theory. يعني this angle here along with this angle here plus بعض ب 180. That's the same exact theory. Whatever you remember في الامتحان, work on it. Number 5. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37. So $37. You see, I started translating على طول, even though I didn't read the rest of the question. I wrote the 37 plus P monthly payments. So I'll say P plus P monthly. يعني P will be multiplied, or it says P monthly payments of $16 each. So it's basically 16 times P, يعني 16P. Which of the following equations represents this situation? I need all of this to give me في الآخر the total that I need to pay for the microscope, which is 165. So when you look at the choices, C seems to be the exact same theory. Again, it's literal translation, والأهم إن أنا ما أقراش الquestion كله مرة واحدة because it gets to be confusing. We read it part by part and we translate the parts we read to math. Working out number 6, y equals 5x plus 10. What is the value of y when x equals 8? This is a very simple question. We basically substitute. So 5 times 8 plus 10, and that would get you y equals 50. Very basic, to the point. Number 7, the first graph we see so far, and you are asked how many cans were collected by group 6. So أول ما بشوف graph XY coordinate plane, it's very important to read what does the X coordinate mean and what does the Y coordinate represent, I mean. So when you read the X coordinates, those are the groups or the group numbers, and then here the Y is the number of cans. And that's now enough for you to know how to use the graph to find whatever is wanted. They need me again to look for the number of cans at group 6 because X represents the groups. I'll go for group 6, which is this one. I'll check where does the bar stop on the number of cans, and apparently there are 40 cans. So the answer here is 40. Any questions? Number 8, they're saying, what is the probability? Whenever I read the word probability, and whenever I read something that I know a rule for, I'll write the rule for it, which is basically wanted over total. I'll check what's the wanted, the probability of what? That selecting a student whose vote for a new mascot was for a line. So عايزين نشوف student اللي راح for a line عامة. So how many students went for the line? Apparently there are a total of 20 students who went for the mascot of a line out of the total. And the total, they already stated it right here at the beginning of the question, that there are 80 students. So it's just 20 over 80, which is simplified on a calculator to 1 over 4. So that's C. Again, we follow step by step instructions. بس أهم حاجة إن ما أقراش السؤال كله مرة واحدة. Things become a bit confusing. We take it step by step and we apply أو we write الرول لو عارفين حاجة كده بالراحة. مش الموضوع ما بيتاخدش كله مرة واحدة. The graph represents the total charge by an electrician for X hours of work. The electrician charges a one-time fee plus an hourly rate. What is the best interpretation of the slope of the graph? Just is exactly what we just explained earlier. The keywords for the slope, one of them was إن هو rate. So when you read those, is it the electrician hourly rate ولا one time دي بتاعت y intercept? So it doesn't work. أكيد B غلط لأنه بيسأل على السلوب. Is it the maximum whatsoever? أكيد غلط. Is it the total whatsoever? برضو أكيد غلط. It's just the only thing that has the word rate in it, which is A. لو كان في نفس السؤال ده سألني what is the best interpretation of the y-intercept of the graph كان هيبقى B the correct choice. The electrician's one-time fee. So زي ما انتم ملاحظين كده linear equations so far عليهم مثلا بتاع 6 questions من أول على 9 حليناهم ودي حاجة يعني غريبة معناها إن هي it's focused عليها كتير even though إنها سهلة. Square x has a side of length 12 centimeters so it's a square. وما دام هو سكوير واسمه x هحط كل السايدز بتاعته ب 12 لان هم قد بعض. The parameter of square y ده سكوير تاني اسمه y. البارامتر بتاعه is 2 times the parameter of x. I'll stop هنا. طب ما انا ممكن احسب البارامتر of x apparently لان انا عارف ان كل السايدز ب 12 so the parameter of x would be 4 times 12. The parameter of x would be 48. They told me that the parameter of y is 2 times the parameter of x. So I'll do 48 multiplied by 2 اللي هي 96. This is the new parameter of square y. They're asking what is the length of one side of square y. بما إن الsides كلها قد بعض I'll divide the 96 by 4 because they're all equals to each other and I think it would be 24. Perfect. So برضو literal translation بس المهم اني اقف في الحته that seems to be بالنسبه لي معلومات كتير وهيبتدي الموضوع يتلخبط. I stopped to try to organize اللي فات لقيت ان already I got a big part of the steps that's needed already. 11. What is the equation of a line? So again linear اهو. Equation of a line that passes through the point this. Now before I continue لما بيجي يديني الاكس في اي point equals to 0 معناها ان الواي اللي معاه هي دي الواي انترسبت. So لما يجي يديني 0.05 معناها ان ال5 دي فعلا هي الواي انترسبت already. يعني لو انا عايز equation هي هتبقى already هي دي البي لان البي هي الواي انترسبت so هحط مكان البي 5. Now I need to still figure out what's the slope because it is parallel to whatsoever. The word parallel معناها بالنسبة لنا equal slopes واحنا حلينا فاكرين عليهم في الأول كتير كده شوية. لما بيقول لي parallel to this يبقى أنا هاخد من ده بس السلوب. السلوب is 7 so I know إنه هنا السلوب كمان 7 so this is my equation y equals 7x plus 5b. Number 12. The linear function this and you're asked which equation defines h. دول يعتبروا points because this is x and this is y. This is x and this is y. I can use them. هما 0 و 41 ادي أول point. تاني point 1 و 40. First of all we just said إنه لما بيكون عندي point الx بتاعتها بزيرو this would be representing the y-intercept which is the b. When you look at the choices, there's only one equation that has a y-intercept of 41 هي A. الباقي كله y-intercept بتاعه بزيرو و this one y-intercept بتاعها بنيجاتيف 41 so دي غلط والباقي كله غلط except for A. Does this make sense? I don't need even to calculate the slope. لو حبيت أحسب السلوب هيبقى y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 which is definitely negative 1 اللي هو فعلا نفس السلوب اللي أنا طلعته هنا في A. لما نشوف 13 this is the beginning of the exponential functions. عرفت منين انها exponential؟ because ال variable في ال power، ال variable نفسه is a power. This is called an exponential function. ال exponential functions follow الفورم دي y equals a times b power x where a represents هي دي ال initial value اللي هي تعتبر ال y intercept وال b represents هنا ال rate actually. بس ال rate في ال exponential functions it's one of two things. It's either a growth rate which is whenever it is bigger than 1 or a decay rate whenever it is bigger than 0 and less than 1. Because here the b is 2, then I know for a fact that this is a growth function, and they even said so because in the middle of the question they said how much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double. Doubling يعني كده كده أنا بعمل times 2. So how much time does it take to double? It doubles actually every 410 years لأنه ده is divided by 410. So I'll think about it ازاي؟ Because I know الفورم كويس قوي. I know إنه ال 60,000 represents ال initial value. يعني هو ده اللي أنا ابتديت بيه. If I need this amount to double يعني عايزه يبقى 120,000. So I need this equation to be equals to 120,000. Now I need to solve to find the t بكام. Does this make sense ولا مش قوي؟ Okay, now how do I solve? I'll move this 60,000 اللي هي معمولة times ال 2 هوديها الناحية التانية بالdivision تبقى 2 power t over 410 equals 120 divided by 60,000 اللي هي تطلع 2. If this is 2 and this is 2, we can cross out the bases and say that this power is equals to this power here, which is 1. So t over 410 is equals 1, which means I can move 410 to the other side and t will be equals to 410. It will take 410 minutes to get doubled. طيب نفس الكلام ده I wouldn't have to do كل الستبس دي if I know كويس قوي انه الباور بتاعي whenever it is divided by something, this something is the number of it's like ايه when I say مثلا I'm increasing by 10% every year, then the power will be x عادي. But if it's increasing by 10% every 5 years, then the power should be divided by 5. Because here the power اللي هو t is divided by 410, it means إنه this population doubles every 410 years. Does this make sense شوية? So when they ask هنا how much time does it take for the number of bacteria to double, أنا أكيد عارف من الأول إنه it doubles every 410 years. So right away the answer is 410. بس حتى if I didn't know this, I can solve it زي ما احنا عملنا step by step and get to find an answer. Please عايز نبقى اوكي ان احنا نموف بأي طريقة منهم. يعني افتكرنا رول اوكي، ما افتكرناش الرول why not نجرب، لأنه most of the time الريزنينج الطبيعي بتاعنا will get us to the same rule. برضه الرول ده الرولز كلها جت من applications ناس كتير عملتها وطلعت كل مرة صح. Anyway طيب 14 the function of f is defined by this. The graph of y equals g of x is the result of translating this 4 units up. What is the value of g of 0? So I moved this unit 4 units up. أول حاجة I'll get what is هو عايز g of 0 والg هي عبارة عن f of x واتحركت 4 units up، يعني f of x اتعملت plus 4. فخلاص هحاول أعمل إيه؟ هجيب الأول f of 0 وبعدين أعملها plus 4. ازاي اجيب f of 0؟ هروح للفانكشن اهي اللي اسمها f. I'll substitute 0 instead of every x and I'll calculate on a calculator what's the answer for that. The answer would come out as positive 672. طيب So what is this now? This is the f of 0 اللي أنا جبتها دي is f of 0. Now g of 0 is basically f of 0 بس translated 4 units up يعني اتعمل لها plus 4. So همسك ال 72 دي نفسها وأعمل لها plus 4 and the answer would be 76. So it's important to understand الحتة دي. When I'm translating up and down, I'm adding and subtracting to the y. So when I'm moving right and left, I'm adding or subtracting to the x. Up would be plus, down would be minus, right would be plus, and left would be minus. But on the x. Now, I can represent this بطرق مختلفة. ال y is the same as f of x. They're the same thing. So أنا ممكن لما أتحرك up أعمل f of x plus لأن هي ال y plus. لما أتحرك down أعمل f of x minus لأني بتحرك down. Now, if I'm moving right and left, where do I add or subtract? Let's say, for example, if I'm moving 3 left, how do I write it? I'll write it as f of x and then plus 3. I put the x with the opposite sign. If I'm moving to the left, it means I'm supposed to go negative 3. But it actually was put here دايما بعكس الsign. So for example, if I say there is f of x minus 2, this 2 represents a 2 to the right بعكس الsign. Are we good? 15. A candle is made out of 17 ounces of wax. When the candle is burning, the amount of wax in the candle decreases by 1 ounce every 4 hours. If 6 ounces of wax remain in this candle, for how many hours has it been burning? I'll put the rate that I have. عندي هنا ounces وhours. This is a rate that I have. عندي ال 1 ounce بيقله every 4 hours. I had 17 ounces of wax at the beginning and I was left في الآخر by 6 ounces. So I'll do 17 minus 6 to understand the decrease of ounces that happened. There's a decrease of 11 ounces. So I'll put those ounces under those ounces. تحت الounces هنا أحط 11 عشان أعرف how many hours did it take for those 11 to be decreased. I'll cross multiply. 11 times 4 divided by 1, which is basically 44 minutes, which is D. Does this make sense? 44 hours. Does this make sense? سارة يا حبيبتي, are you good? أكيد. إيه يا حبيبي تاني؟ بتقول حسبتها أنت بطريقة تانية؟ أوكي ماشي. Let's check 16. 14j plus 5k equals m. You will ask which equation correctly expresses k in terms of whatsoever. When they ask k in terms of أي حاجة يعني I need k alone equals to كل حاجة تانية. So هو ده اللي أنا هعمله هنا. I'll take the equation and I'll try to move everything around the k to the other side. The first thing that needs to be moved is the 14j. فيبقى عندي 5k equals m minus 14j. بعدين عايز أشيل ال 5 فتروح الناحية التانية بالdivision فتبقى k equals m minus 14j and all is divided by 5. When you look at the choices, it is A clearly. برضو easy question يعتبر. 17. Triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL. So I'll just put هنا a quick كده triangle and I'll put عليهم ال letters. وبليز understand إنه لما يقول لي ال similarity هو بيرتب نفس ترتيب ال letters. يعني F هي اللي زي J. So لازم أحط هنا ال J وال G زي K. So أحط هنا ال K وأحط هنا ال L. angle F corresponds to angle J زي ما هو قال و G corresponds to K مش عارف ايه. بيقول لي sin of F is 308 over 317. So F هي بالظبط J. They're asking what is the sign of J. نفس الحاجة. نفس الانسر بالظبط because they just said they're similar and F and J are similar أو are the same angles اللي قدام بعض. Are you good? Okay. the product of two positive integers is 546. I'll stop here وهقول there are two numbers product يعني times عملتهم times بعض the product is 546. If the first integer is 11 greater than twice the second so أول واحد ده is يعني equal 11 greater يعني حاجة plus 11 حاجة 11 greater than إيه؟ 11 greater than twice the second يعني 2 times y اللي هو السكند. What is the smaller of the two integers يعني ال y هي اللي بكام يس. So I'll substitute مكان ال x دي هحط 2y plus 11. So هقول هنا 2y plus 11 in a bracket multiplied by y is supposed to be equals to 546. I'll distribute ال y فيبقى عندي 2y power 2 plus 11y equals 546. دي بقى شكلها كده quadratic. So I'll move كل حاجة في ناحية واحدة وأخليها equals to 0 minus 546 equals to 0. Now I'll take this to a calculator with mode 5.3. Mode 5.3 and I'll put the coefficient of 2, 11 and negative 546. That would be negative 39 over 2 del x, which is negative 19.5. Apologies. Good. Now we're back. So we got the x with negative 19.5, and then when you quickly click equal again, you'll get the y as positive 14. They've just asked me for the what is the smaller of the two integers, and I'll have to take the 14 as one of them. لأنه كده كده they said in the two positive integers. So actually in the x تبقى بنيجاتيف دي is not one of the options that I can pick. Does this make sense ولا لا؟ طيب quadratic وبعدين mode 5.3 طلعنا two answers because they said there have to be positive integers. I had to pick only the positive value اللي هي 14 و I forgot about the negative 19 خالص. Type 19, it's an inequality system of inequalities. بيقول لي which of those is a solution. The best thing to do is honestly to try them out. So I'll substitute المفروض it works, it has to work in both inequalities. لو حطيت مكان ال y 0 ومكان ال x negative 14 plus 7, it would mean ان ال 0 is less than or equals to negative 7, and that is not true. So A كده كده غلط. Now if you try the other one, negative 14 is less than or equals 0 plus 7, and that would be فعلا true. The negative 14 is less than or equals to 7. So I have to try it in the second inequality. فهحط برضو negative 14, it needs to be bigger than or equals to negative 2 times 0 plus 1, which means that the negative 14 will be bigger than or equals 1. That's not true. So B wouldn't work. We have to try out C, and C would be in this case less than this. The first one would be incorrect. خلاص it's D من غير ما أجربها. Just to confirm that it's true, أدي 0, and I'll put مكان ال x 14. 14 plus 7, that would get me in the 0 is less than or equals to 21, which is true. If I substitute it into the other one, 0 is bigger than or equals to negative 2 times 14 minus 1. Yes, it would be true. Negative 28 minus 1, that's negative 29, and 0 is bigger than or equals to negative 29. Just one mistake that I did here, it's actually negative 1, which is still not bigger than. So this one is incorrect, and D is 100% correct. Type 20 بقى. What is the smallest solution to the given equation? عندي two sides that has a square root on both of them. I'll remove both square roots by squaring both sides at the same time. So if I do the power 2 to both sides, I'll remove the square roots, and I'm left with x minus 2 in a bracket to the power of 2 equals to 3x plus 34. Now in order to expand this, I'll have to do أول واحد power 2, leave some space, تاني واحد power 2, and then this times 2, which will get me negative 4x in the middle. All of this is equals to 3x still plus 34. This is a very important thing that most people forget. If I have two things in a bracket to the power of 2, the first one to the power of 2, the second one to the power of 2, and in the middle we multiply all three of them. Now, because I have a quadratic equation, I'll move everything to one side. I'll have x squared minus 4 minus 3, which is negative 7x, and then 4 minus 34, which is negative 30. All is equals to 0. I'll take this and do mode 5-3 on a calculator. So 1, negative 7, negative 30, and it's negative 3 and 10. I got x equals to negative 3 and x equals 10. Which one do I have to pick? They said I need to find the smallest solution. So I'll have to pick the negative 3, but not the positive 10. Does that make sense? Perfect. 21. The regular price of a shirt at a store is $11.7. So there's a regular price, and that's now $11.7. The sale price of the shirt is 80% less than the regular price. The sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. What was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? Let's take it step by step. When they say that the sale price of the shirt is 80% less than the regular price, which means if I'm taking off 80%, I will be paying only 20% of the cost. So I'll do 11.7 multiplied by 20 عشان أعرف the sale price would be قد إيه. Again, because I'm removing 80%, بدل ما أحسب 80% بكام and then subtract, I'll just do 20% multiplied by the $11.7, which is basically $2.34. That's the sale price. Now, the sale price نفسه, the $2.34 نفسها, is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. يعني ال 2.34 نفسها is equivalent to 130% من ال cost of the shirt. So what was the cost of the shirt? It was just the 100%. So I'll do a cross multiplication in order to find what was the amount of the dollars missing. So I'll do 2.34 multiplied by 100 and then divided by 130. 2.34 times 100 divided by 130, and that is 1.8. So the cost of the shirt is 1.8. When they added عليها 30% بقت 2.34. When they كمان added عليها 80% بقت the regular price. Does this make sense? No? طيب. Would you like me to repeat أي حاجة يا حبايبي? A sample of oak has a density of 807 kilograms per cubic meter. The sample is in the shape of a cube, where each edge has a length of 0.9. It is a cube, and apparently they all have the same sides because it's a cube, and each side is 0.9 meters. To the nearest whole number, what is the mass in kilograms of this sample? Do you know what's the mass equals to? How to calculate the mass? So what do you know about the mass? So basically the density of something is equals to the mass divided by the volume. Yep. So how to think about this? We can write it this way: in D equals to M over V. We can put it in this triangle, if you know that triangle, if you've ever seen it before, where if I need to find D, I'll do M divided by V. If I need to find the V, I'll do M divided by D. If I need to find the M, I'll do the ones next to each other multiply. Exactly. So first I'll write the rule. I wrote the rule. The density is equals to mass over volume. I already have the density given, so I'll put instead of the D 807. I do not have the mass. That's what I'm missing. So I'll just put it as mass for the time being. I over the volume which I can find. I do not have it right now, but I can find, because the volume of any shape is basically the area of the base multiplied by the height. So it's side times side, which is side to the power of 3. So I can take the 0.9 and put it to the power of 3 in order to find the volume of the cube. So 0.9 to the power of 3, perfect, 0.729. So this is now the volume. I'll use that over here. I'll put here 0.729. If I need to find the mass, I'll take this to the other side by multiplication. So then the mass will be equals to 807 times 0.729. That's 588.3. Well, they said to the nearest whole number, so I'll have to make it 588. Exactly. Makes sense? 23. X is bigger than 0. What does that mean here? When they say that something is bigger than 0, they're just trying to tell me whether it's positive or negative. So because they said X is bigger than 0, I know it's positive. They're saying f of x equals, so I'll just put f of x equals 201% of x, which is 0. No, actually I'll do خلاص, leave it. 201% as it is of x, يعني times x. Which of the following could describe this function? Is it increasing or decreasing? It's increasing definitely, well, because it's multiplied by a percentage, that's an exponential one. If I'm adding by a specific percentage, that would be linear. Oh, sorry, if I'm adding by a value, مش percent. 24 is this weird graph, and they're asking me if g of x is equals to f of x plus 4, which of the following could define the function whatsoever. We just said that this f of x, g of x is equals to f of x plus 4, when this is f of x right here, so I'm supposed to remove this x and substitute x plus 4. I'll have a over x plus 4 plus b. This is what should the g of x should be equals to. But then I don't know what's the value of a and b, so I'll try to get them from this graph over here. So what is the value of that a and b? Supposedly المفروض انه the function 1 over x, أو pick a point. Easier to pick a point. Let's say we're picking this point here. It's clear here on the x with -7 and the y with -2. Substitute instead of the x and the y -7 and -2. And remember we're talking about this equation here. So I'll put instead of the y the -2, and I'll put the a as it is, and instead of the x -7 plus b. That's the first equation, and I'll pick another point and do the same with it. So let's say I'll pick this one. This one has -5 and -6 as the points. I'll substitute as well. Instead of the y -6, a will be left instead of the x -5 and then plus b. I'll move here this entire thing to the other side by multiplication. فيبقى عندي -2 times -7, which is positive 14, -2 times b, which is -2b, all equals to a. Same thing will happen here when I move this to the other side. So -6 times -5, that's 30. -6 times b, that's -6b, and all equals to a. Because they're both a, I can substitute them, and I can say that the 14 minus 2b is equals to the 30 minus 6b. Move the b's with each other and the numbers on the other side. I'll have here -16 equals to -4b, which means that b is equals to +4. I have the b now. In order to get the a, I'll substitute this into any of the equations. So 30 minus 6 times 4 will get me the a. That's a equals 6. I now have the a and the b. I'll go back down to the equation that I've corrected. A, instead of the a, I'll substitute the 6. Instead of the b, I'll substitute the 4. So that's basically 6 over x plus 8. When we look at the choices, it is C. That's actually that's one of the hardest questions that came across the whole test so far. لأنه it requires يعني quite good understanding. It requires application على حاجات كتير مع بعض في نفس الوقت. Basic transformation, creating the equation from the graph, شوية algebra في النص, system of equations. لا هي سؤال يعتبر رخم شوية. 25 is one of those that's يعني a bit confusing because when we have two fractions عامة and we're trying to add them, they have to have the same denominator. So I'd have to make them have the same denominator. I'll put here y plus 12 as it is in a bracket over, and I'll put in the denominator the x minus 8 as it was, and then plus here's the y multiplied by x minus 8 over x squared y minus 8xy. Now المفروض ان انا check how can I make them similar to each other, and if you look very carefully and closely you'll figure out ان انا if I multiplied this by xy وعملت distribution هيبقى عندي ده, because x times x will be x squared y, و negative 8 times xy will give me this. So because I multiplied xy تحت لازم multiply فوق as well, and I'll distribute as well. So in the numerator فوق هيبقى عندي y times xy, which is xy squared, 12 times xy, that's 12xy, plus y times x, xy, y times negative 8, negative 8y. في ال denominator, I just write it once, I do not repeat it, because خلاص هما بقوا زي بعض already. When you look at the choices, this is choice D. It requires مننا السؤال ده شوية حد يكون easily notice the numbers والmultiples والحاجات دي, because you have to notice the fact that if you multiply the x minus 8 by this, it would get you the same thing as this denominator over here. It would make things much easier for you. Does that make sense? مش قوي. طب would you like me to repeat حاجة؟ نعيدها تاني من الأول, okay? طيب أنا let's say الأول بعيدا عن يعني this specific question, generally أنا لما بحب add any two fractions they must have the same denominators. So usually what we do is that we take this denominator here and we multiply it here up and down, and we take this denominator here and we multiply it here up and down. That's usually what we do. But sometimes مثلا if I have this as a over b plus هنا c over bd, there is no need to take this entire bd and multiply it up and down. I can just multiply by d here up and down. خلاص they will become with the same denominator. And I'll write bd once and I'll write now ad plus c. Does that make sense? So مش دايما بضطر اخد الدينومينيتورز من الاثنين. Okay. طيب what do I do next? Or what do I يعني او how is this beneficial? انه في الكويستشن ده when you look at the denominators عندي denominator x minus 8 والdenominator الثاني هو x squared y minus 8xy. So لو انا خدت بالي انا ممكن اخد من هنا من الاثنين دول x common factor و y كمان common factor, صح؟ So I'll put xy بره common factor. لو عملت كده هيتبقى لي ايه؟ خدت من ال x power 2x هيتبقى لي x واحدة. خدت من ال y بره so مش هيتبقى حاجة. هنا خدت ال x وال y بره so هيتبقى 8. اكتشفت ان this part is the same as this part. The only missing new extra thing هو انه اتعمل هنا times xy, صح؟ So هعمل هنا times xy فوق وتحت, لان ما ينفعش اعمل حاجه تايمز تحت وما اعملهاش فوق. والدينومينيتور اللي كان موجود فوق سبته زي ما هو فوق اهو. طيب right now what do I do؟ بقى بكتب denominator واحد بس تحت اللي هو x squared y minus 8xy, وابتدي اظبط بقى فوق distribution. So هيبقى عندي هنا x y to the power of 2 plus 12 times xy يعني 12xy plus y times x اللي هي xy y times negative 8 that's negative 8y. لو بصيت بديتيلز أكتر هلاحظ إنه these two have the same like terms يعني. So أنا ممكن أعمل لهم addition 12 plus 1 يبقوا 13xy minus 8y over x squared y minus 8xy. Does this make sense? يبقى أنا غلطت كمان مرة، أنا هي C actually. وأنا ليه اخترت دي أنا مش عارف، كده غلط من الأول anyway sorry. مش عارف ليه. بس أنا I saw the numerator و I didn't notice إن ال denominator هنا مختلف عن هنا. sorry معلش. طيب 26 poll results angle cruise مش عارف مين a total of 803 voters selected at randomly according to the poll if 6,424 people vote in the election by how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win? So how do we do this? You'll put them next to each other. I have Angel Cruz and I have Terry Smith. Angel under Angel I'll have 483, under Terry Smith I'll have 320. There is a total here number of voters اللي هو 803 voters. If the number of people is 6,424, so هحط تحت التوتال 6,424. I need to know قد ايه هيبقى لأنجل كروز, so I'll cross multiply 6424 multiplied by 483 divided by 803. That will get me the expected number of people. 3864. ماشي. ايه يا حبيبي قول لي fraction اللي هي زي الفراكشن يعني قمت قايل 483 over 803 وبعد كده قمت جاي اعمل ده times 6424 صح؟ طب بص بقى كده على الديتيلز اوف اللي حصلت ما عدا ال 100 يعني سيبك من ال 100 خالص عشان دي percentage سيبك من دي. انت كده هتعمل 483 times ال 6424 وال 803 بالديفيجن اهي برضه هو ده تايمز ده بقى. So هي عشان fraction او decimal او percentage او ratio they're all the same thing. فهي it works فعلا perfectly right. برافو جدا يعني. Now this one بيقول لي what is the length of the circle, the length of the radius of the circle. Now we learned انه المفروض the equation of the circle is this. المفروض ان دي الايكويشن لو هم مكتوبين بالشكل ده اللي هو bracket power 2 و bracket power 2 only then we can say ان this is the radius power 2 فاقوم اعمل له square root يديني الراديوس بكام. بس لما باجي ابص على الكويستشن ده هو مش عاملهم في brackets, so انا ازاي اظبطهم اخليهم في brackets؟ هو ده اللقطه كلها. So how do we do this? We take the number next to the x. So in this case اللي جنب الاكس باور 1 مش x باور 2. اللي جنب الاكس باور 1 هنا هو كام؟ هو 1 يعتبر. وانا عامل براكت وحاطط الرقم ده واخد الرقم ده من هنا وعامله divided by 2. So 1 over 2 واحط الرقم ده هنا جنب الاكس بعكس الساين. لا بنفس الساين سوري. بنفس الساين بوست and then power 2. وهنا برضو y وباور 2. انا بظبط انا اللي عايز انا اللي اغير الشكل من this form to this form. So I already put البراكتس in place والاكسز in place. كل اللي I need to figure out now are these numbers اللي المفروض يكونوا هنا عشان اعرف افigure out ايه اللي هنا. وهكتب ال 199 over 2 اللي كانت موجوده بره I leave it out as it is. Again I took the number next to the x عملته divide by 2 and I put it here. وهعمل نفس الكلام للy اللي جنب ال y is 1 over 2 and I'll put it here with the same sign plus half. Next المفروض اخد النمبرز دي اللي انا جبتهم دول واعملهم power 2 واحطهم هنا بالبلس So I add هنا plus 1 over 2 power 2 plus the other one which is 1 over 2 power 2. This new thing all together هو ده بالظبط ال r power 2. So I'll do 199 over 2 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4. That's 100. So I squared is equals to 100, which then means that the r is equals to square root the 100, which is 10. This is the radius. So it's a number of steps that we have to apply no matter what. Let's say مثلا كان عندي كده x squared minus 4x plus y squared plus 6y equals 9. المفروض اخد اللي اقوم انا عامل 2 brackets اهم power 2 2 brackets power 2 وحاطط x و y واخد اللي جنب الاكس عامل له divided by 2 واحطه هنا. So that's negative 2. واخد اللي جنب الواي عامله divided by 2 واحطه هنا. That's positive 3. باخد الرقم اللي انا جبته من ده اللي هو هنا وده واعملهم power 2 وadd them up في الاخر هنا. plus 3 power 2 plus 3 power. add كل دول up 9 plus 4 plus 9 18 plus 4 22. This is the r squared. So لو عملت square root ال 22 that would be r. نفس الستبس اللي عملتها هنا في الريد عملتها بالظبط في البلو بارت. Does that make sense? Perfect. I'm sorry ان انا النهارده انا عارف كان الكلام